If you're on the N2 this morning, you're probably doing the usual scan of the roads, traffic ahead, pavements, barriers on the side. Heart rate may be slightly up because for years now, the stretch of the N2 around Borchard's Quarry, around the airport, has been known as the Hell Run, and the N2 turnoffs, Drake's Careful, smash and grabs being quite regular there. Yeah, ever increasing reports of stone throwing, but now the city saying it's done waiting for other spheres of government, now pushing ahead with a 114 million rand safety project. Mayor Geordin Hill-Lewis joins me now on the line. Good morning, Mayor. Really appreciate your time.
Morning,
114 million rand. What will that be used for?
Well, it's going to fix and upgrade all those security barriers that are there but are totally derelict. When you drive along the N2, you can see those poles that once were a barrier but are no more. And so far as we can tell, that was about 15 years ago. But they do need to be fully replaced, and they will be. Then there will be some more pedestrian crossings. There will be... The idea is to close down some of the access for livestock that makes its way onto the embankment and even onto the highway sometimes. And then to provide some safer recreation spaces, because you always see kids playing soccer alongside the N2, which is fine. That's great for them, but we want them to be able to do so safely. So there will be some barriers there as well. And yes, and some improved lighting as well. And altogether, hopefully, the idea is to end that hell run. That's exactly the right description.
Yeah, but what is this responding to? Is it legitimate crime concerns or the perception of crime? We spoke to your MACO member for safety, JP Smith, earlier this week, who gave us some stats. Since July 2025, 8,552 calls were logged on our major highways. Only 86 incidents, just over 1%, were in fact crime-related.
Yeah, look, we've had a large number of incidents on the N2 that cause a huge amount of public consternation and distress. And as you say, when you drive along the N2 now, even if you're in a taxi or in a bus, you're constantly scanning the side of the road for smash and grabs and so on. So there is a general feeling of that this hell run, that section of the N2 is not adequately safe. And it's probably one of the things that I get the most public complaints about to my office. And I have for years. Literally, when I was first elected, I started writing already then to Sunrail to ask them to please address this. And so, yes, now we have reached a point where we are going to go ahead.
Yeah. How do you respond to the argument, including from the Human Rights Commission, that the city is tackling the symptoms of crime, not the root causes, when community leaders like the Human Rights Commission said that these interventions are insufficient? They're merely cosmetic. You're essentially fencing off a section of our community behind walls and fences.
Well, beating crime in Cape Town in South Africa is going to take a lot of different interventions. And this is certainly not the only intervention we do, and neither are we the lead agency for beating crime. But we do a lot of in-community interventions. We are, from the most important thing, which is growing the economy faster to get people into work, to things like building better community infrastructure and sports and recreation facilities in community, upgrading them, giving people healthier alternatives. But the fact is, you also have to deal with the symptoms. You can't simply say we're not going to do anything about this until some distant time in the future when crime is resolved. That's just not an acceptable answer for residents. Residents are distressed and afraid and unsafe now. And if there is an infrastructural intervention you can make, or a technological intervention you can make, or indeed a symptomatic intervention you can make, you must make it. You have to do both of those things, and we are doing both of those things.
There have been barriers before, the palisade fences,
yes.
And over the course of a while, either those fences are pushed down, holes cutting them, even though the concrete blocks are simply just knocked off. What prevents future degradation of planned barriers now?
Yes, I mean it is a constant maintenance issue. The barriers that we are using around the city, by the way, because this is not the first time that we are doing this. If anyone has travelled along Robert Sobukwe, you will know that we've done this there. And just go and ask the residents of that's Matroosfontein what a positive difference that's made. How it has dramatically reduced smash and grabs on Robert Sobukwe. And improved safety for residents there as well, because people used to cut between the flats and run away, and they are no longer doing that. So that's been very, very warmly welcomed. So we're using it in Tafelsig and in Eastridge and elsewhere, and it's very, very resilient. And by the way, what's also very interesting is that Sunroll is using it as well. I noticed the Human Rights Commission had nothing to say about that, predictably, but Sunroll is already doing this on the R300. If you go on the R300 at Hindleway, they have done a beautiful barrier there, which I'm told has already. It's only just a few months old, but has already made a positive difference.
It's not just to ward off against criminality. And a couple of messages here saying that they see too many people and children who are crossing the N2.
That's right. That's such a good. Yeah.
I mean, we've had this conversation before and spoken to community leaders, and these are humans. Humans will find the closest route between A and B. And when we ask why don't people use the pedestrian bridges over highways, the argument would be, well, that's where criminals congregate and people will be too scared to use those bridges. What then? How do we change the human behavior that simply wants to go from A to B over a highway and not to use those pedestrian bridges?
Well, one of the ways is we have to seal access. It is not right that you have access to a major national road like that so easily, where you can get pedestrians walking freely, you can get children trying to cross, and of course you can get livestock trying to walk along the sides and trying to cross as well. So that's, everywhere in the world you go, the access to major main national roads are actually sealed off. And I think that is something that we are going to have to do. Now, another symptomatic intervention that we could look at in the future is to say, well, how do we better secure those pedestrian crossing, those pedestrian bridges? Do we need security at those pedestrian bridges to help residents cross safely in the morning and evening peak times to and from work? That is definitely something that we can look at. Again, there are some that will say that is a symptomatic, but again, you have to do all of these things together because that's the way that you're going to beat crime.
Mayor Geordin Hill-Lewis, really appreciate your time. If you drive on the N2 regularly, do you feel safer knowing that a wall, more protective barriers are coming, or do you think 114 million rand could be better spent inside communities next to that road? And for those living near the N2, does this project make you feel protected? Does it make you feel ignored? Does it make you feel fenced off? I'd like to know from you.